Hello everybody, change of personnel today for the homily. Thanks to Father Mark, we've received an invitation to come and talk to you about my society, my congregation, the Columban Fathers. Now who am I? My name is John Boles, and as you might imagine from my accent, I don't come from your part of the country but from the opposite part of the country, up from Stockport just outside Manchester. But actually I've not been there very much over the last 30 years or so, because just 2 months ago I returned after 27 years service in Lima, Peru, South America. And this is the first opportunity I've had to talk to a congregation, even though it's not live. We wanted to come to you in person. Unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, which hopefully will soon be lifted, we've had to do this by video recording, but at least that means I don't have to speak to you wearing the mask. A bit of background about the Columban Fathers, and first of all, if there's any of you here with Irish connections, you should know all about us, because we were actually an Irish foundation. The Columban Fathers began in 1916, just over a century ago, founded as the Maynooth Mission to China. So in those days, exclusively Irish, exclusively to China. Over the following years, it opened up their formation program to people from other countries, for example England, which is how I came to be a member, and through not necessarily through our own decision, we began to work in other countries around the Pacific Rim. Now why is that? The Columban Fathers are an exclusively missionary society, and within that missionary context, pastoral. That means we're not one of these societies or congregations that get involved in health and hospitals or education and schools. We're mainly parish-based pastoral priests, but with a difference. Working abroad, always in other countries, and as I say, originally just in China, and also offering ourselves to work in areas which, due to poverty or danger, those areas are very difficult for the local church to work in. So if you like, in a way, we're the troubleshooters of the Catholic Church. So we went into China in the 1920s in very difficult circumstances, where there were virtually no local priests anyhow, and worked in a diocese which you might have heard of, called Wuhan, which has in recent years gained notoriety for quite different reasons than Catholic pastoral missionary work, namely the virus, which is the reason I can't be with you in person today. We worked there throughout the 20s and the 30s, into the 40s, in increasingly difficult and dangerous situations, until finally we were expelled after the revolution, the civil war and the revolution. And it was during those years when we came back to the Vatican and said, hey Luke, it's getting virtually impossible to carry on in China. Where else would you like us to work? And the Vatican said, you're doing fantastic work in China. How about doing the same sort of work in other countries that are experiencing difficulties around the Pacific Rim? So that's how we ended up in places like Korea, the Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, and on the other side of the Pacific, Chile and Peru, which are the two countries where I've mainly worked in. And of course, after 1949, the communists took over. 3 or 4 years later, we were all expelled. So we were all working in those areas. And believe me, there weren't terribly easy areas to work in. Can you imagine Japan, right after the Second World War, and Korea, you know, out of the frying pan into the fire, just 5 years after they'd emerged from domination by the Japanese, the Korean Civil War began. The Philippines, we'd suffered terribly during the Japanese occupation. And I was just thinking, actually, reading the text for this Sunday. The second reading could have been written for us. It's Paul in that, it's in Hebrews, where it's saying that you've had all those, they've had all those problems, such as, hang on, I'll be with you in a minute. I think it is Paul. Hang on. It is Paul in 2 Corinthians. I'm mistaken, sorry. Where it says, we're in difficulties on all sides, but never cornered. We see no answer to our problems, but never despair. We've been persecuted, but never deserted. Knocked down, but never killed. Actually, quite a few of our men have been killed in China, the Philippines, Korea, and other areas. Always, wherever we may be, we carry with us in our body the death of Jesus. So, in my own case, in Peru and in Chile, working in areas on the edge of the capital cities, in very deprived areas, Santiago in Chile, Lima in Peru. I tell you, in Santiago, I can't remember the number of times I've been tear gassed during violent demonstrations against the military regime, formerly run by the awful General Pinochet, and then consequent memorials of that regime. And in Peru, in my first year there, guiding back peasants who've been displaced by the insurgency from a particularly nasty revolutionary group called the Sendero Luminoso, the Shining Path guerrillas. I narrowly escaped an ambush that had been laid for us on a mountain path under the Andes, and luckily we got a tip off and we were able to take a different route back. Otherwise, I may not have been here to tell the tale to you today. So, coming back to Britain after a long time, and I've had the privilege of being able to speak to you in my very first live address, well, live at least, through a video conference, not yet in person. However, I believe that it's been just as valuable for myself, certainly, and thanks to Mark and thanks to all of you at Our Lady of Sacred Heart for giving me this opportunity. And thanks to any of you who might already have been benefactors to the Columbans. A big thank you to you. And if you'd like to carry on helping us, then your assistance will be extremely welcome. And I'll just sign off with a couple of addresses that are on the poster. I think you've got to the back of church, and that was on the front of this video. But I'll just remind you of them. If you want to take our magazine, The Far East, that comes out 9 times a year, and actually has quite a few of my articles. I try to do one a month for them. You can get in touch with us at office@columbans.co.uk, and if you'd like to donate your pennies, shillings and pence, as was, it's www.columbans.co.uk, and you go to donate. So thanks for your time, thanks for your attention, thanks again to Father Mark. God bless you all, and hope to see you next time in person. And sign off again with that name and those addresses. Just get the camera panning onto us.